pibis, pibas, pibes inadaptades de la internet, ¿cómo están? Yo estoy acá en mi casa un 14 de febrero y está lloviendo, así que dije, ¿por qué no grabamos un video y hacemos algo? Así que hoy vengo con el capítulo 3. Capítulo 4, Katia. Dios, qué bugueado tengo el cerebro. De What Remains of Edith Finch. Para entender todo lo que estuvimos descubriendo, te invito a que veas el tercer capítulo. Yo soy Katia, para los que no me conocen, y bienvenidos a mi canal. Nos habíamos terminado la historia de Gus. Ah, no, ahí está.
My mom moved up to the loft after her brothers died. At the time, it was as far away as she could get.
Esta debe ser la habitación de la madre. Down Sanjay. ¿Esa foto?
She spent a summer building houses in Calcutta, where she met my dad, Sanjay.
Foto más photoshopeada. 1986. Fotitos. Ayudando. ¡Ey, ese bebé! ¿Será ella?
Religion was another thing my mom never talked about, but I think it helped her a lot after her dad died. My mom moved to India a week after graduation and got a job teaching English.
Ya con tantos juegos no sé cómo se mueven las cosas, ¿viste?
Lewis was born a year later.
Está rota la escalera.
Dad died. I don't think Mom knew where else to go. I'm sure Edie was happy to have her back.
Milton Lewis.
The house had to get a little bigger, but Edie was used to that.
La casa tenía que ampliarse, pero Edie ya estaba acostumbrada. Algo así dijo, perdón, lo saqué.
And for a while, things were good. Almost normal.
¿Qué es eso? ¿Como una mini escuela?
But it didn't last. The beginning of the end was Milton's 10th birthday, when Edie gave him a castle.
No pueden tener ningunos años buenos, tipo, todas las tragedias le tenía que pasar a esta familia, dale. Que la vida los deje en paz un poquito, todos se mueren. Milton, 1992, y no hay fecha de muerte.
After Milton disappeared, the only thing he left behind was a room full
desapareció.
of paintings.
¿Qué es eso? ¿Un tubo de striptease?
Somebody come get her.
Todo con pintura.
I think Edie was happy to finally have another painter in the family. Milton Finch in The Magic Paintbrush.
Ay, no. Y desapareció. Ah.
I was 4 when Milton disappeared. Mom spent months searching for my brother. Then she sealed the doors Milton had found in the house. Mom didn't want it getting out. Mom definitely blamed Edie, but I think Lewis blamed himself. After he graduated, he just spent more and more time in his room. Until Mom got him a job at the cannery.
Esto vértigo. Lewis.
Everyone
1988.
always told me to stay out of Lewis's room. Except Lewis.
1988 o 2010. Altos cuartos, altas habitaciones. Dale. Creo que la de Lewis es mi favorita. Porque se ve más como mi estilo.
Lewis's room smelled very, very familiar.
Ah, bueno,
That part
entonces
of
ya
it
no es
moved
mi.
on.
Bueno, entonces ya no es mi onda. Hippie sí, No drogadicta. No a las drogas, chicos. No a las drogas.
We spent a lot of time playing games together, but he was surprisingly bad at them. He died a lot.
San Juan se fue de vacaciones a Argentina. Ah.
Dear Mrs. Finch, as Lewis's psychiatrist, I can understand your desire for an explanation. As I see it, the trouble began in January, shortly after we convinced your son to seek treatment for substance abuse. Newly sober, I believe Lewis first noticed the monotony of his daily life.
No, boludo, no. ¿Por qué me ponen a matar animales?
He kept working at the cannery, but he withdrew part of himself. In our sessions, I saw the same behavior. Mind began to... I asked him to describe it. He said he started small, imagining a labyrinth, feel his way about. Nothing moved. Bats. And toads. Knew it was all in his head. He took it very seriously. Hoped he'd find himself. But he found something more. Worried about him then. Daydreaming at the cannery. I spoke with his boss, but he said Lewis had become a model employee, methodical, tireless, focused, like a whole new Lewis. So I let him go on. I even encouraged him. It seemed very promising at first. He told me he'd made a new friend. On the edge of a city he named Lewis Topia. He built the city up slowly, brick by brick, and he made musicians and songs for them to play. He talked about starting a band, and he was always humming something. Every day his imagination grew strong. He no longer spoke at the cannery, but his chopping was as reliable as ever. Then one day it struck him that all the cheering crowds, even the stones under his feet, were all in his imagination. He held an election for mayor, and he won.
Puede ser Mario Bros.
They begged him to stay, but his mind was already wandering. It became a game for him. He'd conquer a city, then immediately push on. New Louisville. St. Louis. He started drifting away from our reality. Minneapolis. Until one day he forgot to go home from the cannery. Mother pleaded with him. Part of Lewis kept sailing on. In Lewisburg, he heard rumors of a handsome queen, beautiful prince. The prince was on his own quest for radiant rainbows.
Oopsies. No, boludo. Re mala soy en
He
esto.
followed the sound of his
Arpa y plata.
silver harp.
No.
His chase led him to a golden palace east of the sun and west of the moon. Then his logic remained sound. It was all in his imagination. But he was so proud of having created it. In his own eyes, he'd become something greater than a king. For someone who'd never known success in the real world, I think it was overwhelming. And then it struck him that the real Lewis was not the one chopping salmon, but the one climbing the steps of a golden palace. My imagination is as real as my body, he told me not to argue with him.
Bleh, qué asco. Sí, imaginación por tanta marimba.
¡Droga! ¡Coño! ¡Pendejo!
Se volvió loco. Igual. Por marimba no
Began
puedes
to forget the
alucinar.
world we know.
No puedes alucinar tanto por marimba. Creo. No,
I think
no.
it pained him to remember Lewis, the cannery worker. He began to despise the man with a royal contempt.
Bueno.
I still thought I could save him. Even after he said he was being crowned king over all the lands of wonder. The palace would be packed with his companions, including the wise Calico who'd insisted on inviting him. His prince waited, holding his crown. There was only one thing left to do. Bend down his head.
Claro, en una guillotina. Agachar la cabeza.
And the rest I think you know. Mrs. Finch, your son was a kind man who will be missed by all of us who knew him.
¿Por qué me persigue la desgracia?
My brother was really cool. I wish you could have met him.
Pero por favor. Uf. Decapitado.
On the way back from Lewis's funeral, my mom told me to start packing. She waited until the day before we left to tell Edie. I'm not sure if she wanted to make it easier or harder. I wish we'd stayed. But I understand why we left.
Esta será su antigua habitación.
My mom ended up leaving everything behind. What happened that night had been coming for a long time. Maybe it should have come sooner. But it had to end one way or another. All that's left now is to tell you about that last night. That whole last day, Edie just watched us pack and didn't say a word. Until supper, when she raised her glass and said,
"To our final night together, and all our final nights apart."
Grandma, you know what I said about alcohol. Some of your medications are very
Edith,
specific.
I left a present for you in the hallway. Why don't you go open it? The grown-ups have to argue now.
I'm sorry, you're right. We're all leaving tomorrow. Let's just enjoy our last...
I'm not leaving.
Edith, you're excused.
the power had been shut off that morning, but Edie always had plenty of candles. Mom said the library, I don't think she knew about the other entrance, or that Edie had a key to it.
That thing you're afraid of isn't going to end when you leave the house. Edith has a right to know these stories.
My children are dead because of your stories. I think it's best if Edith and I leave tonight. We'll have the nursing home send a van for you in the morning, okay?
La historia de los Finch.
There's so many stories I wish I could tell you, but there's only time for one. This is about what happened on the night you were born. That night, the tide went way, way out. It was the first and last time I ever saw the old house aground. There'd been an earthquake out in the middle of the ocean. They called it the lowest tide in 1,000 years. It smelled awful. You know, I've seen that house every day of my life. But I never thought I'd go back to it. Fog rolled in. I lost my way. I got turned around. I started seeing things. Never existed. But when I saw them, they felt like old friends. That night, a lot of things came back to me. Maybe I came back to them. Things I can't explain, but that I need you to try and...
Edith, what are you doing in here?
It's mine.
Edith!
Mom, you're gonna rip it. Let go. I kicked and screamed, but Mom dragged me to the car. I never saw Great Grandma Edie again. The next morning, the van came to pick her up, but she was already gone. After that, we moved around a lot. We both tried to make the best of it. A few years went by. My mom didn't like to talk about it, but she started getting sick a lot. The rest happened pretty quickly. She got better for a while, and then she didn't. And then I was alone. The last Finch left alive. Until I found out about you. I'm still not sure what to tell you about all this. We lived forever. Maybe we'd have time to understand things. As it is, I think the best we can do is try to open our eyes. Appreciate how strange and brief all of this is. This journal was supposed to be for you, but now I hope you'll never see it. I want to meet you and tell you all these stories myself. But I guess if you're reading this now, things didn't work out that way. This is where your story begins. I'm sorry I won't be there to see it. It's a lot to ask, but I don't want you to be sad that I'm gone. I want you to be amazed that any of us ever had a chance to be here at all. Good luck.
El hijo. ¡Ah, boludo! Y terminó. Hemos terminado What Remains of Edith Finch. La verdad que me gustó, un juego muy interesante. Te hace querer vivir más la vida porque todos se mueren. Bueno, me quedé tipo, ya terminó. Gracias por acompañarme en esta historia. La primera serie de videojuegos terminada en el canal. ¡Bravo! Cuídense, yo los quiero mucho. Chao.